We have a loaded Philadelphia Eagles now coming your way on this Friday, and here's everything that we're talking about on today's show. We have another new Justin Simmons update. Should Philadelphia sign this former Cowboys center along the offensive line? And one Eagles player on the defensive side of the ball has been, quote, a revelation for Vic Fangio. First, how about how Eagles now is faring against our NFC East counterparts inside the walls here at Chat Sports? We're doing a June sub-battle between rival teams inside this division, and Philadelphia Eagles now having a great month of June. Since June 1, we have picked up 643 new subscribers. We're well ahead of Giants now, the Cowboys report, and the Commanders report. I'm not content with just this victory here. I want to dominate the Giants, the Cowboys, the Commanders. They're all frauds. We're the best. Go Birds. Hit that sub button. And at the end of the day, you get Eagles shows every single day, year round, right here on Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Let's start off with the latest around Justin Simmons. James Palmer, who used to be an NFL reporter for the NFL Network, was on the PHLY Bird Show with Bo Wolf and Zach Berman, and he had a lot of fascinating things to say about what the current status is of the four-time All-Pro in Justin Simmons and whether or not he could sign with Philadelphia. Palmer said he doesn't see anything happening anytime soon. Why is that? A few reasons here. Justin Simmons knows he's not going to get paid top-of-the-market money, and he's already made a lot of money throughout his NFL career, but at this point, it's just going to be at a bargain when he does eventually sign with the team. So because of that, Justin Simmons is exercising patience. He has received offers, but what he's really trying to do is hone in on and center on a good fit because he has lost so much throughout his career. He wants to go to a team where he can be competitive. So Simmons is looking at the market and he's trying to eye the best possible fit. Justin Simmons also knows the market won't really change until training camp because rosters right now are pretty much set. Teams have a good idea of what they have on their respective rosters, but if an injury happens, if a player doesn't perform all that well, that could obviously dictate and change the market, which is why there might not be a decision for Justin Simmons for a little while. And then lastly, Palmer said that the Philadelphia Eagles pretty much chose C.J. Gardner-Johnson over Justin Simmons, a player who's younger, has more familiarity, has good ball skills too, but obviously hasn't been a productive player like Simmons has been throughout his entire Broncos tenure. My read on this situation is this. I think right now Philadelphia is content with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship at the safety spot. I think that's a little bit of a risk because you're light as far as depth, and is Reed Blankenship a starting safety in this league? He could be, but he's not Justin Simmons. And Sidney Brown and Mekhi Garner, are the two backups right now behind Gardner-Johnson and Blankenship. The defense as a whole, in particular the secondary, is much improved. So the corners, because the Eagles are much better there, in turn could make the job for the safeties a lot easier because you have a lot more talent there. You drafted Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, Isaiah Rodgers back off the gambling suspension, Keely Ringo looking as though he could take a massive leap from year one to year two. You still have Darius Slay. Eli Ricks, I thought, showed some flashes last year and in the preseason. Justin Simmons, why I think this makes sense for Philadelphia so much, he has played in Vic Fangio's defensive system. He can run it. And he's a great cultural fit because he's been a multi-time team captain for the Denver Broncos. He's going to be 31 in November, but he can still play at a very, very high level. So James Palmer pretty much saying Justin Simmons to a team, not going to happen for a while. But if it's to the Eagles, would you be interested? Type S for sign or P for pass. Story number 2. Should the Eagles sign Connor Williams? The Eagles are looked at as a good fit for the former Cowboys center who over the last 2 years has played for the Miami Dolphins. Here's what ESPN's Adam Schefter had to say this week. Former Cowboys and Dolphins free agent center Connor Williams, who's coming off season-ending knee surgery, expects to be ready for the start of the year and is in discussions with multiple teams about where to play in 2024. He plans to pick his new team before training camp begins, and some people look at Philadelphia as a viable destination. Williams is 27 years old, second-round pick by the Cowboys out of Texas in 2018. So he went from Austin, Texas, up to Dallas and played really well there. 50th overall pick that year. He plays for the Cowboys from 2018 to 2021, then with the Miami Dolphins the last 2 years where he got a good bag, and it's also an experienced player. 83 games and 77 starts, and he's been very productive, especially over the last 4 years. In 2020, had an overall Pro Football Focus grade of 71.1, 70.8 run blocking grade, 66.6 pass blocking grade. But as you can see here, overall grades going up over the last 4 years. The run blocking grades have also gone up. The pass blocking grades, not great, hovering at 66.5 here, up to a career high, nearly 77 in 2021, back down to 69, and then up to 71.7 last year for Miami as he played about half the games. But some of those metrics, some of those numbers, pretty damn good for a player who's been a good player in this league, can play center, can play guard. When you look at the Eagles' offensive line depth chart right now, I still think this is a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, great. Lane Johnson, still great. The question marks, Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen, which brings me to my next points here. I am comfortable with Cam Jurgens at center. He was drafted to be the Jason Kelce replacement. Kelce handpicked him to replace him at some point. 2 years ago, he played center in the preseason. I saw a player who was agile, was comfortable on those pull blocks and the swing blocks. He looked the part at the center spot. Tyler Steen, though, he definitely struggled last year. This is a player in Steen who, at Vanderbilt and Alabama, only played left tackle. Eagles draft him as an interior offensive lineman, and last year, he didn't play all that well. I will say, look out for Mekhi Becton to maybe start at right guard week 1 against the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. Steen last year, 68 snaps, so of course a limited sample size, 53.2 overall Pro Football Focus grade, not good. 64.1 run blocking grade, 21.9 pass blocking grade. So Steen struggled, certainly in a small sample size, learning a new position. The Eagles do have some flexibility there with Mekhi Becton, with Matt Hennessy. Could you go the route of a Connor Williams? I still, again, think the Philadelphia Eagles have a top 10 offensive line going into 2024. 3/5 of it are elite. The 2/5 of it, some question marks, but I have a good idea of what Cam Jurgens is going to be. I also thought what Tom Brady said on The Herd with Colin Cowherd this week, very, very interesting, and it pertains to the offensive line. And they were having a great conversation about the importance of the offensive line. And Tom Brady was saying, my entire career in New England, we always had offensive lines that collectively played really well as a unit. Not everybody was necessarily a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro, but everybody cohesively played really well. And a reason why Philadelphia has been so successful the last couple of years with their offensive line, of course, is talent. They have been cohesive, but this brings me to my final point on this story. It's the coaching that this Eagles offensive line gets from Jeff Stoutland. And Tom Brady said to Cowherd, I've arguably had the best offensive line coach in the history of the NFL coaching my offensive line, which makes my job easier. I don't have to worry about edge rushers coming off the edge, the interior. I have a clean pocket, and that was Dante Scarnecchia. And Dante Scarnecchia, a legendary offensive line coach. He's here. Jeff Stoutland in this generation of football, he's right behind Dante Scarnecchia. So you count on Scarnecchia, Stoutland, to develop offensive linemen, to coach them up, to have a unit collectively that plays cohesively as a unit. And the cohesiveness of the offensive line, maybe the most important position group to have that cohesion. It's all about reps. It's all about being used to who's flanked to your right, who's flanked to your left. offensive line is really about that, and that's why offensive lines have struggled with fewer practices at the NFL level because it is a repetition type of position. And as we see with Lane Johnson's kickstart, sometimes a lot of it has to do with timing as well. All of those things included, that's the importance of having Jeff Stoutland. I thought what Tom Brady said was really on point for that. And by the way, I think he's going to be a great broadcaster in the booth, very insightful, very smooth. He's a really good storyteller. He's very informative. You learn new things every time you hear Tom Brady talk. He's going to be in that number one broadcast booth alongside Kevin Burkhardt for Fox. Grade the Eagles' offensive line, A, B, C, D, or F, as currently constituted, with Cam Jurgens at center and then Tyler Steen at right guard. Let me know. Story number 3. This player here to my right, according to Albert Breer, NFL Insider, has been a revelation. And Albert Breer, who works for Sports Illustrated and is always hopping on some of the more marquee radio shows across the country, is a great NFL insider. And he's talking here about Isaiah Rodgers. And I thought he shed some great insight on the Eagles' defensive side of the football here. So let's run through a couple of these quotes. I'll share the screen here. The Philadelphia Eagles' momentum of a year ago, Breer started off, when it felt like the organization was firing on all cylinders, feels like it has subsided. But there's a way for Philadelphia to get it back, and it's through the defense. And in particular, it's going to happen with the younger guys on what's long been an aging unit coming of age with new coordinator Vic Fangio aboard. Drilling down on that, the Eagles saw the most progress in that area at cornerback in the spring. Part of it has been the emergence of veteran additions, including Isaiah Rodgers. Still just 26, Rodgers started 10 games over 3 years with the Colts, then got suspended for 2023 for making over 100 bets. Yikes. Some on his own team. Indy released him in late June of last year, and Philly quietly added him 2 months later, stashing him on the reserve list for the rest of the year. He's been reinstated by the NFL just before the draft and has been a revelation over the past 2 months. We've talked about Isaiah Rodgers on this show. Performed well during OTAs. He was a winner during mandatory minicamp. And while he didn't play a ton in 2022, 283 coverage snaps, he did play really, really well in those 283 coverage snaps. So with more of a workload, can he maintain those numbers, and can he continue the momentum from performing well during OTAs and minicamp, and can he lock down a starting role opposite of Darius Slay at the cornerback spot? Overall Pro Football Focus grade in 2022 of 82.1. He could play the run, good coverage grade, passer rating allowed a 106.3. That's a little bit of a red flag there, but he held up very, very well. More from Albert Breer. Add to that the fact that top 40 picks Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, a safety corner combo in the mold of Malcolm Jenkins, have looked the part, and that young guys such as Keely Ringo have come along, and Philadelphia should be much better at the cornerback position. One sign of the improvement is that the Eagles are toying with moving aging corner James Bradbury to safety, a more suitable role for him on the roster, and something they wouldn't be doing if they didn't feel a lot better about the young talent they have at the position. And that talent at the cornerback spot, it's been one of the bigger storylines of this offseason. Philadelphia's pass defense in 2023, terrible. As Charles Barkley would say, man, it was terrible, that Eagles secondary, man. James Bradbury couldn't tackle anything. He was a traffic cone. But now, with the additions that Philadelphia's made at that cornerback spot and the emergence of some of these young players, I think that unit is going to be much better off, and could it be led in part by Isaiah Rodgers. Before we head on out of here, what are your plans for the weekend? What are you doing? As of right now, I think that I'm going to take a workout class on Saturday, get my hair cut. On Sunday, we're trying to get some people together at Chat Sports to play some wiffle ball. So that's all that I have going on. What are you doing? Let me know. And be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. Just surpassed 30,000 followers on Insta, as some of the young people say. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Videos every day still to come here on the channel.